So it's finally time to get into some diagnosis on the S14. We know something's wrong because it overheated pretty bad at the track and it had a lot of pressure in the coolant system, but we don't really know exactly what's wrong. So as you could see, I've got the compression tester set up. So I think the best place to start is going to just be to do a compression test on it, just as a little bit of a health check. So I pulled the plugs. Most of the plugs look fine. Number 4 was a little suspect. So I kind of wonder if that's where we're going to see any kind of issue on the compression test. If not there, we'll probably see it whenever we pull it apart. So yeah, I don't know. Let's get into the compression test on this thing. All right, let's see how we do on this here. Get a couple cranks. All right, so step 1 is pretty much done. Got our compression test done. I know you saw the gauges, but we'll go over the actual numbers just a little more in detail. So cylinder 1 was at 200. Cylinder 2 was at 200. Cylinder 3 was at 187, and cylinder 4 was at 190. So at least we know, all right, it's not completely blown up. That's a good sign, I guess, which I didn't think it was, but I wasn't sure how badly it could have possibly blown head gasket. So we'll know more when we tear into it, but you know, sounds like we probably got something going on between cylinder 3 and 4. Maybe that's where it's just hurt a little bit. So the next step is got to actually take it apart. I think I want to pull the engine completely out to do that because I really want to freshen up some other things during the process of that. So next up, I have yet to pull the data logs from this thing. So let me pull the logs and then we'll see like what actually happened at the track, like how hot did it get, and like, you know, did it overboost or whatever. Because I will tell you, on the day that it happened, the car felt pretty fast for a little bit, and then, you know, it didn't feel good. So it might have overboosted, you know, who knows. I left myself a little bit of room on the boost cut just because on a drift car you don't want it to like shut you off in a bad place. So but everything was really conservative, so I don't know, but we'll see. Yeah, let's get into that. I'm gonna get the laptop hooked up and we'll pull some logs and then I guess go over them together. All right, so we got all connected, got the key on, all that stuff, so we can pull the logs. I still got the battery hooked up and everything, so let's get connected to the ECU and pull the logs. So we got our PC Link software open. Get connected here. And then we're just gonna go to logging, ECU log file download. Simple as that. So I've got a good bit of logs here. I don't know which ones are which, but I mean, it's probably within like the last, you know, 5 to 10 logs as far as what I got going on, but I'm just gonna pull them all. So I can just highlight all of them just like that and then download. Now that's gonna take, you know, a little bit to download because there's about 18, 19 logs there. So, you know, I'm not logging stuff at crazy high rates because I just don't really have anything that I need to log at a really high rate on here. So the logs actually pull pretty quickly. If you'll see like on the menu here, you'll see like most stuff I'm just logging at 50 Hertz, which is just a hair above what PC logging normally is. So PC logging is 40 Hertz. And when we're talking about data logging stuff, that's just like how many samples that you're gonna get of something per second, pretty much. There's some stuff you want to log a little faster than that. Like I probably should be logging like trigger errors and a couple other things like a little bit higher rate than that. But I think, yeah, I just had everything set to like 50 Hertz on here. So, but that is getting done, and yeah, we'll be back. All right, it's wrapping up pulling logs now, so we'll be able to get these opened after let's save them. So file organization is key, as I always tell people. So yeah, I'm going to go to my folder and we'll do that. And now all of our logs will be open. So when you're looking at this screen, wherever you see all the red break lines, that's where log has ended. So some of these are earlier logs. These are probably from the dyno session here. I'll tell you, like when I'm looking at logs, like, and I want to kind of see like what was happening. Usually the first place that I'm looking is the engine speed, because that's going to kind of tell me like what the car was doing at the time. So for example, if I zoom in on any of these, you can see that they're just straight ramp up runs in RPM, and they're all pretty much the same way, because I had a set window that I was running on the dyno. So, you know, every one of those is going to reflect that. So like this was probably all while I was like dialing in boost control and stuff like that. So but yeah, so that's just kind of a tip for looking at logs. I mean, I get that question a lot of times, like at the track and stuff, when people are like, well, how can you tell where you are in the run? If we're talking about like competition drifting or something like that, I can usually see, you know, the 1, 2, 3, 4 shift on the run up. And then I know like, okay, that's the run up. And then I can kind of, from knowing different tracks and things like that, I kind of know where they are on the track just by what they're doing with their feet, pretty much. So okay, so this would be, I guess this would be the last run. You can see all this throttle here, this green line here in the middle, like that's all throttle. So we know that those were runs. That wasn't just me like, you know, hanging out in the pits or, you know, just driving up to it. So this is probably the run where things went badly. Let's see. I could have swore I saw some real high temps on this thing. But that was the way I've got my logging window set up. I think the temps got really bad. Yeah, it was after this when I felt that the car just wasn't, it just didn't feel right. And so I decided to like kind of try to coast back. Okay, yeah. If we look here, so you can see, look down here at this row where you see lots of fuel cuts. That pink line, that's fuel cuts. So that's going to be any rev limiter. But you can see that rev limiter is coming in at 5,800 RPM. So that's quite short of my normal rev limiter. The reason it's doing this is because I have it set where if the car is overheating or if it's running too lean or anything like that, it's going to give me this cut as a protection. It's just because when you're driving on the track, you know, you're not really looking at your gauges very intensely. They're in your peripheral, right? But you're not really looking at them like that. So I try to put something there that's just like hey, pay attention type of limiter, not one that's like gonna shut the car off, because that's just dangerous on the track, but something just to make me pay attention. So Yeah, you can see here, I mean, if we look at coolant temp here, I'm at 238 already right there. I may see if I can get the footage from Scott, because I think Scott was actually behind me on this lap. I mean, it was cutting out super bad, and I was just trying to drive through it when I shouldn't have been, is what it really comes down to. But yeah, if you look here, let's see, 18 PSI. I mean, that's probably what happened. Yeah, I would say so. So yeah, that's probably where I heard it. That probably caused it to lift the head, because that was hitting a good bit more boost than what I really wanted to see out of this thing, because like I said, it's stock head gasket, stock head bolts, stuff like that. I had it at like 15, 16 PSI on the dyno. So looks like I probably should have dialed back the boost a little bit. It was pretty cool at the track that day, pretty cold. So yeah, I mean, that's just difference in boost control settings, and unfortunately this is a setup that there's not that much margin for error. I probably, looking back, I should not have given myself so much room on the boost cut. I should have made it a little tighter. So that's probably contributed to things a bit. Timing's super conservative. I mean, it's 9-8 degrees there. I mean, it's pretty conservative. So I don't think it had too much time in it, but I think it did have too much boost. Fuel was good. Fuel pressure was maintaining as well. Let's see. Yeah, because I had base pressure set at 58 psi, and differential pressure, the value you can see over here, it's pretty consistent throughout. But yeah, so I think that's what happened. I think it just lifted the head a bit with the extra boost. And then when I was on those runs, it was cutting early because it started to run hot. So I think when I was trying to coast back to the pits and get off track, I think I saw as much as 260. Oh, yep, you can see it here, 264 degrees. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's what it is, you know. I mean, hey, that happened.
Class fuck up.
So I knew with this stock engine that I could only push it so far before something like that would happen. So I think that's what happened. I think it was just lifting the head, just, you know, under the heavier boost. And now we got to do a head gasket. So, I mean, that's what I see there. I mean, that's more boost than I really wanted to see on this thing. So, yeah. So where does that leave us? I mean, I would say, you know, like I said, our next steps, we gotta take it apart. We gotta pull it out, right? So probably in the process of pulling the engine out, I think the plan is gonna be pull the engine out. While it's out, send off the injectors, just to have them clean, have them checked, all that stuff, just to, you know, make sure that we've got a fresh start. I'm not 100% sure that I will reuse the 1050s, only because I know I'm kind of like, you know, towards the end of what the 1050s can do. The base fuel pressure definitely helped, running it at 4-bar base fuel pressure or 58 psi. But I think I might want to go bigger just to give myself a little more headroom for fuel pressure correction and things like that. So I don't know. We'll see on that. But regardless of that, I'll get them cleaned and then they'll be ready to sell or use in another project or whatever. Other than that, I need to make the decision whether, and maybe, yeah, in the comments if you guys want to talk about it. Since I'm gonna have the engine out anyway, should I go ahead and put some pistons and rods in this thing and maybe go a step up on the turbo size and shoot for a little bit more power out of this thing? The drivetrain is good behind it now. You know, the 300ZX transmission, it can handle, you know, pretty good amount of power, as much as I'm gonna, you know, make out of this thing, I'm sure. So I'm not too worried about the transmission. I've got a good diff in the car. Probably gonna, you know, do some other upgrades. That's a whole other thing of the whole rear subframe and all that stuff. But yeah, thinking about doing pistons and rods maybe, or just, you know, clean it up, put a head gasket on it, and keep it moving. It didn't feel like it needed way more power, so I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, other than that on the list, I just want all of this to look a lot nicer. It's hard to make them look nice when you have everything still working. Like, you know, this car still has AC and all that stuff. So, you know, still a full stock wiring harness. I'm just using the adapter from Panic for the Link in it. So, I don't know, maybe we do a whole new engine harness. So that looks, you know, looks nice, and do a little paint in the bay and just, you know, just clean it up a bit. So I think this is a good opportunity to kind of, you know, reassess, you know, the build and just maybe take it up a level from where it is. Great thing about this car is I don't ever have to be in a rush for anything. As I've said before, this is a forever car. So like, I can take as long as I want. I can try whatever I want with it. And the phases of the car don't have to go by very quickly. So, you know, as I've mentioned before, like this car probably at some point will get an engine swap. It probably will be a JZ. But I think we're gonna ride out the KA setup for a little bit longer. I think that'll at least get it back out a lot quicker than if I was to do a whole engine swap. So I could maybe get this thing to my liking, enjoy it, and start collecting parts, you know, over time for something else for it. So anyway, that's where we're at. The yeah, engine's not toast. I don't feel at this point. So let's just get it apart and fix it. So I'll see y'all next time.